All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pharmacy Friday podcast. My name is Jason Benedict, and I'm one of the co-founders of RX Ambassadors, and I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Dr. Amit Kakar from Avalon Pharmacy. I'm going to give a brief overview of our podcast format, and then we're going to dive right in. So each week, we like to invite independent pharmacy owners like yourself to join us live to talk shop, to collaborate, share successes, identify challenges, and talk about new and innovative strategies that are driving growth and efficiency for pharmacy owners. So today, I will be interviewing our co-host and my good friend, Dr. Amit Kakar. Now, before we dive in, I have to say this. If you are listening to this podcast right now and you're an independent pharmacy owner, you need to be following Dr. Amit Kakar from Avalon Pharmacy. Amit is one of the most innovative and forward-thinking pharmacy owners that we have worked with over the last 4 years, and he is going to be sharing some inspiring insights with us today. All right, welcome, Amit. So excited for us to kick off this podcast. Can you start by explaining where you're located and a little bit about your independent pharmacy?
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. And thank you for the intro. That was quite the intro. I appreciate it. So my name is Amit. I'm a pharmacist, of course. I've been a pharmacist for 25 years. It sounds like a very, very long time, but I'm so proud to say that. I'm located in Yucca Valley, California. So I'll say Joshua Tree, California. Maybe some of you might know that a little bit better. It's a small rural town. I would call it a population of about 20,000. And about 25 miles from Palm Springs, California. So we'll throw in a few other cities there to kind of give some reference points. I have been there for 25 years, small independent pharmacy, and we've grown quite a bit and just learned along the way and just really enjoyed trying new things, innovating, and just having fun.
Absolutely. I love it. So, I always like to ask the question, did you buy the pharmacy from somebody else? Did you start it from scratch? Like, tell us the origins of this, of Avalon Pharmacy.
Yeah, thank you. So the journey, as we all have our journeys, wasn't always planned. So I initially wanted to be a physician. I did not get accepted in medical school. I went to pharmacy school and I took a job as a pharmaceutical rep for Eli Lilly, which I loved immensely, but I lasted about 3 months on the job due to the fact that I really enjoyed more patient connections. That's what it was. So as I was on that one of my calls with the company with Eli Lilly, I met a pharmacist who was retiring, and he asked me if I wanted to take over the pharmacy, and of course I said no right away, quite a few times. And to make a long story short, I decided to work with him for a year, and it was one of the best years of my life. One of the toughest years to start off with, but just learning the curve and the business and just connecting with people. I really started the journey. So to answer your question, I basically took over the pharmacy and sort of grew it from where it was at that point.
I love it. I love it. There's always a unique story behind every pharmacy and every business owner. And Amit, I know just personally from working with you over the last 4 years, there has been just a massive transformation with you personally and how you run and operate your pharmacy and your independent pharmacy in Yucca Valley, California. I want to kind of go back about 3 or 4 years,
Yeah.
Amit, right kind of at the start of COVID, right? It's really when you and I met and we started kind of talking about growth and efficiency and how can we help you to support that growth. Tell me a little bit about the business where it was 3 or 4 years ago and about some of the transformation, the growth that you've experienced in the last 4 years.
Yeah, so we really invested from day one, so we'll call it 25 years, really $0 and zero effort into marketing. Sort of was running the pharmacy. I thought marketing was maybe putting up a billboard in town or maybe passing out a flyer. That was my idea of marketing. So right around the time prior to when COVID hit, I was realizing I started losing connections to patients. And I noticed, to be honest with you, our volume was dropping, trying to pinpoint ideas as to why was our volume dropping. And I realized that we really weren't connecting with patients. There was no engagement. Like we can all fill prescriptions, right? It doesn't take a special pharmacist or a pharmacy business to fill a prescription, but to be able to connect with patients. So that's when I started reaching out and trying to look into CRM platforms or customer relation managers management platforms to figure out how can I sort of get involved with just more connecting with patients. And that's, of course, led me to Jason and Therese Benedict with automation, and just sort of taught me the from ground zero what an email is, I to this day, and just how to use that for engagement. And to be honest with you, the lesson I learned here, the most valuable lesson is I thought I knew it all. I really did. Because I have business experience, that's fine, that's great. But what about marketing? It's a whole, I'm not a marketer, right? But I had to humble myself and realize I'm going to come to the best, Jason and Therese Benedict automation, and look, I need help. And that's what happened. Right prior to COVID, I literally had to say, I need help. And that's when I met Jason.
Yeah, that's thank you for sharing that, Amit. And I love that because most business owners, they go in with a passion, they go in with a dream, and they go in with a skill set and a talent essentially that leads them down the path of starting a business. And then eventually it leads into, oh, I have to actually market. I have to go out there and advertise to drive business. And you were running the business for 19, 20 years just on the old methods of the tried and true of good old referral and word of mouth. And, as competitors started coming into your space, you started to see those numbers drop. And I think a lot of pharmacists and pharmacies don't really understand yet the value that an email has, or even that a cell phone number has, to the ability to engage your patients and to stay connected with them well beyond the pharmacy. So I think it's great for other pharmacists who maybe aren't collecting emails and patient data as effectively as you have over the last 4 years. Let's talk a little bit about like your database growth, right, Amit? So when you started,
Yeah.
how many emails did you have, and how many emails, fast forward 3, 4 years, how many emails do you have now?
Yeah, so our population, I would say, is about 60 years and older, older population, and the area itself, in my mind, patients didn't use emails. Maybe they use their phones even a little bit, but it was mostly by all of our contacts were through phone. So when Jason approached me, he asked me, "Do you have any emails?" And I said, "No, because our patients don't use emails." And I'll say, from a marketing perspective, probably the last thing you want to tell a digital marketer is you don't do emails. So those you know Jason, he's very talkative. He always has something good to say, always something positive to say. That's why the first time ever I heard a little bit of silence in his voice for a split second, and he goes, "Okay, so we can work with that." And I was thinking to myself, "Geez, we have nothing to work with. We don't have a single email." But he said to me, "We will get there." And now, fast forward, so let's say the population of our town, Yucca Valley, is 20,000. We now have 9,000 patients in our database and 6,000 emails. And Jason and I are on a mission to teach each and every pharmacy here that that can very easily be done. It takes time, it can be done. But all the things that I've learned in the process of just getting emails and connecting to patients, and they go hand in hand. So that is basically our mission, and that's how we started, literally from ground zero. And I want to say one thing too about marketing. When we talk about marketing, we all think, okay, what is marketing? Marketing is really just putting out your content and what's important to you and what matters to you, and then let the marketers do their thing, right? That, I think that's the sort of the line that I realized I drew is, I don't necessarily want to be a marketer, but I love putting content out, and you can do both, right? But that's kind of the key lesson here is to separate the two.
Yeah, that's incredible, Amit, because you just said you have a population of about 20,000 people, and you told me that you've serviced 9,000. That's almost 50% of the population that you have serviced, specifically coming to Avalon Pharmacy. So when I think about like the other big box retailers that are in your space, and if you just had to kind of guess at that, how many other big box retail locations are near you, and other independent pharmacies are in a couple mile radius from your pharmacy?
Yeah, so we have 6 pharmacies within probably about a 2 or 3 mile radius of us.
And you have
Very, very competitive market.
Yeah, and you've captured 43% of the market coming to your pharmacy, which is incredible. So I think that the thing that we have to help other pharmacists to understand is the impact that email can have on your growth and your ability to communicate with your patients. Because I think a lot of times pharmacists don't understand, like I said, the value of what an email can do and how it can help to engage them. And so, Amit, I want to talk a little bit about, like, you said, oh, I had 0 emails. Well, now you have over 6,000, and I think one of the key things that we looked at first when we said, hey, how can we help you to start capturing data and then engaging your patients? And so tell me a little bit about, your location and how we were able to kind of capture foot traffic.
Yeah, so the key point indicator, one of the key points to realize here is, how am I going to capture emails? Because initially I did the same thing. Okay, I don't know how I'm going to get an email. Am I going to ask a patient for an email? And the first thing they're going to ask is, basically indirectly, is, what value are you going to give to me? So we have an urgent care next to us, and there's a lot of traffic coming in and out. I realized, and I thought, how can we capture, once they fill a prescription with us, chances are we may never see them again. So trying to figure out how to capture that was number one, foot traffic. And I thought, we can capture that email. And Jason was explaining to me, we can nurture them with different campaigns. We can offer them services. Let's say, for example, they come in for a diabetic medication, right, from an urgent care. They're not your regular patient. Well, we can capture their email, put out a diabetic newsletter, and we can address them. And they're now are part of our cohort of patients who have diabetes. You're offering them some knowledge. Could be pain patients, cholesterol, high blood pressure, you name it. You can segment the audience as how you do it. So we started capturing it with a simple iPad. iPads out front, they sign in with the iPad. Remember, they have to sign to the pharmacy as it is. So we have their phone number, we have their name. In the beginning, was it difficult to get an email? In the beginning, yeah, it was. I'll be very honest with you, because they want to know, what value are you providing? Well, you're providing a ton of value. I think the important lesson here is, know what you're good at and what content you can provide. Because if you don't know what you're good at, how will you explain to somebody else, what you're presenting? So capturing emails from the urgent care was our very first step. That was step one.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important lesson too, is that you have to leverage your existing resources. And you have an existing resource that's literally right next to your pharmacy, which is driving in people coming into your pharmacy. And prior to that, they were walking in and walking out, and you never captured any of their information. And now, fast forward to today, you have every single person that comes into your pharmacy, who comes to the counter, checks in through an iPad, captures name, email, and phone number. And the cool thing that I really love about this is it also date and timestamps, so you know when your patient's last visit date was, right? So now, once they check
One,
in, yeah, go ahead. I know you're excited to share about that.
yeah, I was just going to say, thank you. Once they check in, so let's say, for example, patient Mrs. Jones comes in on a Monday and she checks in for the first time. Now, every time she comes in, she signs in, she checks in, and you can send her an automated message, thank you for checking in. So we're giving them this is the thing, we have to give them a little bit more than a prescription. And it could be a simple thank you. It could be a simple message of happy birthday. That's another campaign you can set. So I think it's just a matter of adding a little bit of more value each time they come in. This is, I think, what builds connection. This is what builds patient engagement and patient following.
Yeah. So Amit, every time someone comes into your pharmacy and they check in, if they're a new patient, they get a new welcome email, a new text message, and both of those contain a video, right? So even when you're not in the pharmacy, you may have the day off, like Fridays are typically your day off, but yet any patients that come in or new prospects that come in, they get a welcome email from you, right? So they get engaged. So tell me a little bit about how that has helped to create more engagement and awareness for you, even when you're not in your pharmacy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think video is huge. Now, the first pushback, I did it, and I'm probably going to hear from every pharmacist that comes in, is, I don't like to do videos. So I've been doing videos for almost 3+ years. I only do videos because Jason got me started on them. I will be very honest with you. I don't watch my own video more than one time. But here's the thing, the patients absolutely love it. They don't care what you look like. They don't care what you're wearing, what your hair looks like, but they love the message. And I can't tell you how many patients have come in the pharmacy and say, I love the video. It's a very personal message, and it's you. It represents your brand and your pharmacy and your personality. So the videos are just huge. And you can make one video one time, and if you so choose, you don't have to do it again. Just you set that automation up properly and it's done the one time, but it's a personal thing, which is important for your business because you are the face of your business.
Absolutely. And Amit, I love how one video for you, you said you could record one video and then, for you, it turned into one video to another video to another video to the point where we actually decided when COVID hit and people were scared to come out of their homes and they weren't coming into the pharmacy, you actually went into their homes via their phones, their tablets, their computers, and by sending them videos every week. And we actually ended up coining the term, right? Minute with Amit. So every week you would stand in front of a camera and you would record videos talking about, medications, talking about avocados, blueberries, different COVID variants and how to interpret those and what to be aware of. Like, how has that transformed? How has doing one video transformed you in the way you think about getting your content and your brand and messaging out to your patients?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. So one video, if you can look back, it was a video on COVID. It was actually not my finest, but we always laugh about it. But it was our first video, and since then, I actually sat down and calculated. I've probably done close to about 800 since then of just constantly repetition. You get better and better, and the beauty of this, you sort of learn which topics patients love to hear about. You can check your engagement, you can check all these clicks, and you know what message am I giving out there that they're coming into. So that was important. And also during COVID, it was great because patients weren't coming in, but we talked about the COVID vaccine. What are our patients afraid of? And actually, to this day, believe it or not, those videos actually got the most clicks. Are the COVID videos? Patients were scared, but as a provider, you're able to give them knowledge of questions that that they just don't have the answers to. So those COVID videos were the beginning of welcome videos, and then it became videos now that we're doing with Minute with Amit, and it's gone on to social media. So you really sky's the limit there, but it starts with just the one video, and just put it out there.
Yep, absolutely. You got to get started. I think that a lot of times there, a lot of people, just in general, not just pharmacists, that there's fear behind taking action. There's fear behind change, right? There's fear of thinking like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I don't have a message, or I don't look the right way for a camera or video, or there's so many ifs, right? And Amit, like, what message do you have for other pharmacists who might be thinking that video is not the right thing for them, or that they're fearful of change, or they're fearful of taking that next big step?
I would say there's always fear. The only way to really confront fear is to take action. And it doesn't have to be tons of videos, but start somewhere. Because if you start something and it doesn't work out, you're really back to where you started, right? Which is actually where you began with. But you'll find your niche, you'll find what you're good at, but you have to take some sort of action. It could be the smallest action. You could film a video, and don't publish it. Just look at it, and redo it and do it. And it's just a matter of, rinse and repeat. And even to this day, I still look at my videos and I'm like, oh, that wasn't good. But somebody will come out and say, well, that was a great message. And I reminded, you're right. It's the message that we put. So my advice would be to just get started. That's it. And especially with emails, etc., have a plan and get started and just be consistent.
Absolutely. Gotcha. Yeah, you got to take action. That's the key thing here is that anytime you run into fear, you've got to take action. And I think there's a quote that I've heard that says, everything you want in life is on the other side of fear, right? Sometimes fear stops us in our tracks. And it could be as simple as turning on a camera, standing in front of it, and recording your first message and sending it out to your database. Even if you have 10 people in that database and you have 10 emails, it's a starting point. And I think that's the key thing is a message to take away from today is to think about how can you get started? What are the things that you can do? Amit's in a small town with a population of 20,000. He started with 0 emails, and fast forward to today, he has over 6,000 emails in his database and served more than 9,000 patients while competing with 5 or 6 other big box retail chains and independent pharmacies. So Amit, I want to talk a little bit more about the word transformation, right? Because you have gone through not just from your pharmacy side of things, but you've been doing pharmacy for 30 odd years, right? Like 25 years.
Yeah.
And you got to a point where you're like, man, there's got to be more for me than just wanting to do pharmacy, right? Like, and running a business and running a pharmacy is amazing, and that's an amazing accomplishment. But I think every pharmacist comes to a point in their life where they're asking themselves, is this all I'm going to do? So I want to like you've had that epiphany, and just share with us like your thoughts and what were some of the things that you hit that wall. What were you thinking, and how has that transformed and changed recently for you?
Yeah, so I thank you, Jason. I love transformation. Like I came from a position of I lost 45 pounds. I wanted to do a physique fitness competition with something to challenge myself with. And I always think to myself, if I can transform this, why can't I apply it to my business? Right. And I realized for doing pharmacy for so long, I was fixated on revenue and script and prescription volume count. And I thought I can't live and die by this. This can't be the way I'm gonna spend the rest of my life checking revenue and checking script volume. There has to be something more. So that's when I asked myself, what problem am I really solving for my patients? Right. I'm giving them their prescription. What more am I doing? And that's when I had the epiphany. I go, why don't I start trying to solve problems for patients? Let me talk to them. Mrs. Jones is depressed. Mrs. Jones has diabetes. Mrs. Jones has high cholesterol and multiple disease states. But what am I doing besides giving her medication? And they have questions, right? And you don't have those opportunities to answer all those questions. So that's when I said, let me start with the. So every week we started doing a minute with a minute videos on. It could be, and we were doing everything from healthier habits. Could be a morning routine. Could be something helpful, a nice quotation, something positive, an affirmation. The videos went to newsletters. So we did a minute with a minute newsletter now that we do. And it just became an engagement. And as time went on, we kept engaging more and more, and patients started emailing back. And it became so much fun to hear their stories and to share their stories. And the more they talked to us and we understood where they're coming from, we created more content regarding Mrs. Jones's, for example, she lives alone. She wakes up in the morning by herself. She's lonely. What's going through her mind? What type of mindset is she going through? So we talk about mindset. So all these little things really meaning that I want to transform myself through these patients. So this kind of started the whole chain of events, and it's been going strong up and to this day.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that you mentioned a few things, right? It's like you realize that yes, you could keep doing and serving patients by distributing medications to them, right? But you wanted to go beyond that, and you wanted to think about how you could help them in ways. And I don't think a lot of pharmacists think that way, and that's one of the innovative things that I've always recognized about you is you've always thought about the next step after, and how can you make a bigger impact? How can you change and transform someone else's life? Not just in the 2 to 5 minute window that you might have while you're explaining their medications, but how can you take your messages and share with them to inspire them to create change in their own lives? And I think that really what it did is it started to kind of blossom your idea of wanting to launch your own personal brand. And so I want to talk about, the personal brand that you've created recently. And I want to talk about some of the topics and the pillars of your personal brand, because I think a lot of pharmacists out there, they're passionate about things, but they don't know how to create the structure to go out there and to take that message into the world. So let's have you share a little bit about that, Amit, and your personal brand.
Yeah, thank you. So I have to first give credit to Jason and Therese Benedict of Automation. They really got me started on everything from ground zero, from an email to a Avalon brand to now a personal brand. They've encouraged me all along the way, which is my first thing I've learned is you have to believe and lean in to the ones who know what they're doing, right? You have to trust the process here. So when I realized that, okay, now I'm connecting with my patients, how amazing would it be if I could go on my own personal brand now? I could have my digital courses and I could talk to these patients about what I'm passionate about. So my passions are diet, fitness, and mindset. So I'm taking my personal brand now and talking about courses about diet, health, and fitness and living a healthier lifestyle, right? Like as a pharmacist, like all of you, I've dispensed over 3 million prescriptions and I've seen the types of patterns over 25 years of patients, the same patterns. And what I've learned is these 3 pillars, I'm taking my personal brand and teaching them. For example, I can teach a module on the relationship between diet and anxiety and depression. And all of this information comes from experience over 25 years of watching these patients who have anxiety, who have depression. We talk to them about their diets, about their mindset, and it's a very similar pattern. So if I can help them on a personal level, this is fantastic. So one thing I have learned in this pharmacy, not only are you filling prescriptions, but use it as a learning experience to talk to your patients and realize what are their pain points. Because I had no idea that later on this would now evolve into a personal brand and to a course that I can teach them and show them, hey, this is what we can do specifically with your mindset, with your diet, with exercise, whichever one, 3 pillars. You can pick and choose, but the relationship they have between that and their conditions they're experiencing. And if you look all around as a pharmacist, like who's a better resource than you? You dispense the medication, you know the medication, you have the patients, you have the connection, you have everything all in one. I mean, you're the resource. That's as good as it gets. So why not use it?
I love that. You are the resource. I think every pharmacist can relate to that and know that they, like, again, going back to like thinking that they are enough. They have the knowledge. They've gone to school. They have a doctorate in pharmacy. They know the medications. They know their patients. They have a lot of knowledge and information that's sitting inside of them, but they just need a vehicle to get that out. And I think that what my mind just went to, Amit, is connecting how what you're doing now on your personal brand connects to actually collecting emails from your patients. Because had you not collected your emails and your contact information from your patients, you wouldn't have an audience to be able to market to and to have a channel, a communication channel where you can literally send out an email, send out a text message, and promote a new product, a new course. And I think that that is a very innovative way. And I think that's, something that the future of pharmacy is going to lead to, is start thinking about how each pharmacist can become an influencer in their own right and become a voice and a message that they can create content, they can record it once, they can put it into an online membership site, and they can start to drive more revenue from every patient. So while DIR fees may be squeezing profits on them with regards to medication cost and fees, they have the capability to take every patient and offer them additional information and resources. So I love what you're doing, Amit. I think that you're gonna start seeing a lot more followers from other pharmacists kind of looking at you going, wow, how can I do what Amit is doing? And so what advice, Amit, do you have for pharmacists that might be thinking, wow, that's a really great idea, or, oh, I don't know, I'm scared. What advice do you have for them to get started on that?
I would say, thank you. I would say one thing too. I'm in the same position as all pharmacists, right? We fill prescription, we have volume, DIR fees, we get hit, we get underpaid, all these things, right? And if I live and die by that, yeah, that would be an issue. But I think it just started with one email, one video, and then look what happens from there. Then you start realizing, okay, what is my passion? What do I want to do? If I hadn't got started with one email, one video, it wouldn't have grown to where it is now, and it wouldn't get me to where I want to be. So I would say one thing: you're not alone. Like we're all in this together. We all have pharmacies, pharmacy businesses, and yeah, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I hate the fact when I get underpaid on a prescription. It bothers me. But you know what I do love? I love when Mrs. Jones comes in and she says, "Thank you for that video I got yesterday. You made my day." That is a different value. And that is what tells me I want to do more, right? If I get underpaid on a prescription, do I want to go fill 100 more? Maybe, maybe not, right? Some are good, some aren't. But the value in connecting with patients, that's the value in a pharmacy. And you have to find out what your value is. And the only way to do that is to get started and figure out quickly, because it takes time, it takes effort, but you're putting in the time and the effort in your pharmacy, right? It's no different than what you're doing now. So I
Yep.
think with whichever direction you choose to go in with that personal brand, it starts with basically from square one. Like we all want to get to the top of the mountain, but we don't realize we start at the bottom. We'll work our way up, and we've had Jason and I have been working together for a while. We have lots of things that we've done. That some of them worked, some of them didn't, but we didn't quit. Right? We kept on trying different things, and to this day, we still try things that maybe that didn't go as well as I wanted to. Maybe the video didn't hit. Maybe the newsletter wasn't as effective, but we still do it anyways. And if we stop and look back, it's been an absolute amazing journey. And that leads into this: is you just really have to enjoy the process. You have to love the process and enjoy just working with patients and building that engagement. Because I think this is the future, right? Digital marketing is the future, hands down. Whether it's videos, newsletters, whatever mode you choose, but digital marketing is the way to go, and it starts with capturing emails. And as pharmacy grows, margins will get tighter, and you have to find your niche into something secondary, like a secondary means of income, and you build it around your business and your specialty.
I love that. Amit, one of the things really connected with me is you were talking about the connection with your patients and really listening to them and finding their pain point, right? You and I had a conversation yesterday about one of your patients that came in and was, upset over the cost of an inhaler. Tell our listeners a little bit about
Yeah.
like how you took that conversation and how you turned that into an opportunity to educate and to inspire and create change for your patient.
Sure. So this is one thing when you able to build connections with patients, and when I say connections, the emailing going back and forth, you don't realize it, but now they trust you. Like we know pharmacy is the most trusted profession, right? But when you're connecting with them, they look at you differently. You've gained their respect. You're giving them a ton of information, right? So I had a patient come in. He was a smoker for the past 40 years, and he quit smoking. And he came in to get an albuterol inhaler, and his copay was $10. And we all know his copay is $10. We're probably making nothing off the prescription, but it's not the point. The point is he's complaining about the $10 copay. And he asked me, why am I taking this inhaler? Why am I spending $10? I quit smoking. My lungs should basically resolve to where they were before. And I told him, I said, you smoked for 40 years. Do you really think you're gonna come up with a clean slate in one day after smoking for 40 years? I said, you've done some damage to your lungs. And if this inhaler is all you're taking right now, you should be absolutely thrilled. So getting to know him on that level, he didn't like that. He goes, okay, well, that's real good news. Thank you, pharmacist. And I said, look, I'm here to be honest and to help you. And then he said, and I appreciate your honesty. I really value that. Now, in the past, I would have never said that. So then I asked him the next question. He told me, now this is important about listening to your patient. He said he has a very addictive personality. And I caught that. And so I asked him, I said, so now that you stopped smoking, what are you doing instead? He goes, I'm drinking. As a matter of fact, I have 12 packs of beer in my car right now. And I said to him, is that going to serve you well, that you're going to replace the smoking with the drinking? So you're complaining about a $10 copay on your inhalers, but you spent how much on those 12 packs of beer? I don't even know, maybe they're $20. And you're complaining about $10. And how is that going to serve you? So we went even further in the story. He tells me that he has a sinus infection and they found a polyp in his nose. And I said, okay, well, the chances are the polyp is probably benign. He goes, no, it's cancerous. And I go, how do you know that? He says, oh, I know it. I go, but they haven't tested. I go, there's a good chance it's benign. He goes, why do you say that? I said, because I know, and I have a feeling. Excuse me, I say I know. I said, I do believe that it's benign. You gotta be positive. And he stood at me for a second, and he goes, you're the first person to tell me that if you think it's going to be benign. Everyone else is telling me I'm screwed. It's malignant. And I said, well, that's just a mindset thing, right? So I had to bring up the point at this point. This was a tail of the ball bit. I said, you do realize you stopped smoking and now you're starting to drink, and you do realize that alcohol increases your risk of cancer. You're so worried about that polyp being malignant, but you're drinking 12 packs of beers every day. You increase your risk of cancer. So you see what you're kind of doing here? And he just froze. I almost saw a tear coming out of his eye. And he said, thank you. Thank you for saying that. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to take the time to do that. And I said, that's something I wanted to do. And that moment right there, just for me personally, I had so many ideas flowing through my mind of how I could help this person. But not only that, this person probably could represent thousands of more in the same situation who haven't had the opportunity for someone just to come out and say, you know what, that could be a benign polyp. Mm-hmm. You don't need to smoke and you really don't need to drink. So that was the story right there.
That's an amazing story, Amit. And I know our listeners that had to have resonated with many of the pharmacists that have had conversations like that, where they've wanted to take that extra step and to give some advice and guidance. And I think, like you said, it starts with listening to your patients. And when you listen to your patients, you start to identify some of their challenges, some of their pain points, and then you can provide them with some of the knowledge and experience that you have. And I loved it too, is because you brought in one of like the pillars of your personal brand, which you mentioned was mindset, right? And here he is thinking negatively about the situation, and you came in, shifted his mindset to think positive, and he immediately caught on that, hey, no one else has done that for me, so thank you. So I love what you're doing, Amit, not only just in your pharmacy, but what you're going to start doing and creating in the world is a more positive environment for people who are afraid, who are scared, who have been smoking for 40 years, or they have addictions and they feel that they're scared and they're afraid to stop or to take that next step. And I think it's pharmacists like you that are really going to transform the industry and create a better relationship with patients that are going to go far beyond the pharmacy. And I know you've got tons of stories that you have shared with me over the years, Amit, about how you've been out playing golf with your daughter and playing tennis lessons with your son, and how your pharmacy and the automations that you've set up in your business have been able to create that consistent messaging, that positive messaging, and that branding essentially that keeps your pharmacies, your pharmacy patients coming back, month after month and referring, more business to you every single month. And I think what's important for pharmacists to understand is it all starts by taking action, and it starts by collecting your patient information and having a plan in place and a strategy, right? Because sending a postcard once a year is a strategy, but it's kind of a latent strategy. It's not an opportunity to create consistent messaging and growth. And I think that's one of the things that I've recognized about your pharmacy and why you've had such great success and how you've grown the retail side of your business is by simply having a plan, a process, the right systems and automations in place. And I think an important topic we want to make sure that we cover too is that automation is not designed to replace the human element, right? We're not trying to create a robot of Amit to put him into his pharmacy. We're trying to create a supplemental path for his patients to receive information from Amit so that Amit can continue to be with his family, be there for those special moments and those events where he can play golf with his daughter and tennis lessons with his son, and not feel like he's constantly limiting his growth within his pharmacy. So, Amit, how has automation transformed your freedom in your personal life, and why should pharmacists start thinking about implementing automation into their marketing, their sales processes, their follow-up, their operations? Share more about that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all starts, Jason, with you and automation and Therese. Just a little to tail off that last story. If you had an email list, if you had a automation intact, you can go right out and put on that course on smoking cessation right then and there on the spot. See, on that spot, that made me want to go, I can put a course out. I have the email list built up through automation. Without automation, you absolutely cannot. It's been done. You've been doing it. You've had your face out there. You had your videos out there now. You could really quickly put a course out on smoking cessation. And I can tell you right away, it would be a hit, because what a better resource than a pharmacist. But that starts with automation. Without automation, you wouldn't have this, right? You'd have all these, I think without automation, it's like, you have all these ideas, and what am I going to do with it? Like, who's my audience? Well, automation builds that audience for you. You're able to connect, and basically you're the face, right? So you can pretty much give out whichever information you want. You can give it out for free. You can sell it, whatever method you want to use. But it all starts with automation. It's almost like it's a background of marketing that needs to be established, so you can set out your content, your values, because we all have so much content, right? But what do we do with it? That's the key. Am I going to write it down and put it away? Yeah, I did for years. But now I'm realizing, now that the automation is built up over time, it's a method of distributing your information and content. So, and most importantly is, it can free up your time. Like we all know, as pharmacists and pharmacy owners, we get bogged down with just, I'm being honest, some nonsense stuff, right? But if automation is going on in the background, I'm okay with taking a little extra time doing some paperwork now, because I know my automation is going in the background, right? My patients are being taken care of. And the beauty of automation is, I don't get to see all the of course, there's no way you're going to see all the patients. There's so many patients I never even knew existed that I'm able to connect with through automation. So you're able to, If I'm seeing maybe 100 patients a day, I'm emailing 6,000. So you can imagine on the back end how many patients I'm going to be able to connect with while I'm getting pharmacy work done. And that's the key, right? Is, in my honest opinion, between paperwork and disbursements and these things, the pharmacy, the volume is not going to change. We have to make change, right? We just have to get better, right? Things don't get easier. We get better. And I think one way of getting better is putting your time into areas that move the needle. Automation. That's a needle moving activity where, hey, look, I'm going to keep doing my paperwork. I'm going to keep dispensing prescriptions. That's part of the game. But at the same time, a needle moving activity is automation, helping me in the background to do my things.
Amazing. Yeah, it's been an amazing journey to watch and see the transformation that your pharmacy, your patients, the feedback that you've gotten on a daily basis, and not to mention the number of reviews that you've received. I know when you first started, Amit, before started using automations, I think you had about 3 years ago, you had about 15 reviews online. And to today, I think you have over 430 reviews by simply just having an automation in place that after you've served a patient and you've delivered value to them, you ask them for that review. And that's an exponential growth in 3 years to be looking at the fact when you look at other pharmacies in your local area and you Google, pharmacy in Yucca Valley, California, and I encourage any listener to do this. Look up pharmacy in Yucca Valley, California, and tell me which one of those pharmacies has the most reviews. And you will see that Avalon Pharmacy has over 430 plus reviews. And if you look at the other big box retail chains and the other competitors, there's only maybe like 8, 10, 5. It's amazing what automation can do when you put the right systems and processes in place and you do it with intention, right? And Amit's always been with positive intent. His goal has always been to be positive, to inspire, to grow, to help people to go away from their challenges and their hardships, and help them to inspire them with not just medications, but with his mindset, with diet and exercise tips. And so, Amit, I'm so excited for the podcast to continue to grow in terms of its subscribers and listeners. And I know each week we're going to continue to keep interviewing new and innovative pharmacists like yourself. I want to take a moment just here to thank everyone who's listened in today. We're excited to kick off this Pharmacy Friday every week, every Friday at 9 o'clock Pacific time. And if you are interested and you would like to be interviewed on one of our upcoming episodes, please text. You can text the phone number 602-878-6007 and text the word pharmacy. So text the word pharmacy to 602-878-6007. Now, one last thing I want to mention here too today before we hop off is Amit and I also host ongoing training webinars each and every week. So if you're a pharmacist and any of what you've heard today has inspired you to think about capturing emails, implementing automation, wanting to create growth and efficiency, wanting to leverage innovative marketing strategies that can help you to grow your RX counts, can help you to grow your patients, to engage your patients better, I encourage each and every one of you to go to rxambassadors.com. That's rxambassadors.com. We host weekly live training sessions where you can jump in, you can hear more about Amit's stories, and you can learn some of the innovative marketing strategies that we've implemented that we now call the Amit model, because Amit has had such success and growth that we have created a series of marketing strategies, campaigns, and tactics to help independent pharmacy owners to continue to grow their independent pharmacies by leveraging the power of automation. So Amit, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited for us to interview another new independent pharmacy owner next week. So for those of you listening in, thank you so much. We look forward to having you on next week. And Amit, thank you for joining me and for sharing your story.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was an absolute pleasure, and best wishes to everyone.